Okay, so I was testing this morning a bit, and I found some bugs. I'll show you what's up. So yesterday we fixed part of the problem, but as you can see, if we lock in a move at an edge point, it indexes a nil value at 774. So if we take a look at 774, now this is the same bug that has been the bane of my existence. It's always the nil value. So what's happening here is that our next move row and our next move column gets saved once we lock in our stones from our first movement in this current scenario. And the thing is, if you look at some of the values that are printing up here, see how we're printing up nil. So what was confusing to me for this whole time was that why is it that the debug can handle a nil value at this point in time, yet we consistently get that bug of trying to index a nil value? And I think that the difference is a nil value, if it's unassigned, will be nil like that. But what's happening here is that we're actually trying to index a grid that isn't an occupant instantiation. So this type of nil is like, I don't even know what this is, versus the other nil, which is like, we just haven't gotten a real value yet. We know we initialize it to nil, which we do, up here. We say, hey, we're nil. So it knows it's nil, but it knows what is nil. So it's like, that thing is nil. But right now, it doesn't know any occupant at the grid, at the 2D grid 6, 1. It just doesn't know that because we only assigned 5. We signed a 2D array of 5. So I think that's what's been going on. So I think we should be able to fix it by, let me see, what line was it? It was 774. So 774. Yeah, right here. So this is indexing a nil value, which this is actually the line of code we just added yesterday. Which is a good explanation for why I didn't catch it yesterday. I didn't thoroughly test it, but we need to check whether or not this next move is a capstone. But we only need to check that if it's not nil. If this thing is not nil. I don't know if that'll work. Let's see if we can say if that grid does not equal nil, then we check whether or not it's a capstone or standing stone. Let's see if that fixes anything. I can imagine it fixing it, and I can imagine it not. So we lock it in, we drop a space, we lock it in. Hey, it worked. So now our off-grid is true, which means we hit enter with stones left, nothing happens, but if 0 mouse stone occupants, then we hit enter, then it'll swap players. So it looks like that works. Now we need to make, we know we need to do this multiple times. So let's just make a function right off the bat. So what this is doing is, all this is really doing is setting off-grid to true if we're not nil and we're a stone control of capstone or standing stone. So what this is doing is forcing us to drop all stones if our next move is an illegal move. So what could we name a function that does that? Next move off grid, that's almost like it, but we need to call it something like next move illegal or something. So we're saying we're always going to be comparing it against this next move and next move column. So if that occupant is not equal to nil, meaning if it is within our 1 to 5 grid of our whole board, so if it's a valid space, then we say if it's a capstone or a standing stone in that space, then we cannot, we switch off grid to true, which means we would end up forcing the player to drop all their stones. So our next move row and column gets assigned every next move off grid. So as long as we use our next move illegal function after our next move off grid, we should be able to stop that bug. So if I go to next move off grid, and then, yeah, so instead of this, is this the first time we use it? Yeah. Okay, so instead of this, I'm just gonna run our new function, next move illegal. And then basically we want to do that at the end of every next move off grid. Now we could combine those two functions, but I kind of want, I don't know. I guess we could. We could. It's just personal taste. I heard, I'm still learning programming, so I don't know what is good to do and not, but I heard that some people think it's good to have functions that only do one thing. And it makes sense for me to do it in two. I don't know why, but I guess it's easier to, no, I don't know. I really don't know. I guess it's fine. Let's see if we can get it to index nil value now and crash, or if we might be good. So okay. So we should, like, let's see, if it's a black turn, can we, good. We cannot go on top of a standing stone, but we could go over this way. Okay. We still need to program the border line so we can see a white on white stone here, because this is 2 white stones, but you can't see it, because that's how thin the white stone is, but white on white doesn't render, so I guess we're good. Okay, so far so good. I can't really get it to crash anymore. 327. The same thing. How come it crashed on that one? How come it crashed on that one? Maybe instead of saying if this is nil, we're going to say if next move row here. We've got to do two things. We're going to say if next move row is greater than 5, no, greater than 1, and next move row is smaller than 5, and next move column greater than 1, and next move column smaller than 5. That should also mean that we wouldn't index anything that would be nil. And it's okay if our stone control is nil, because our stone control would be nil if there's no stone in it, but the occupant itself needs to not be nil. See how every stone here, every stack control, stone control is nil. But okay. Okay. I mean, do I just keep playing until maybe it crashes? Normally it crashes there, going to a spot on the edge. That's the only time I've seen it crash like that. Do we just assume we fixed it? What's so weird is that it crashed on a capstone for whatever reason. Capstone moving. So let's try capstone moving again. Okay. I noticed one thing. We want to switch. So look, if I have a standing stone selected here. Oh, two things I just thought of. So if we have a standing stone selected, we drop it. Then if we place a regular stone, oh no, it is back to a lay stone. So maybe I was mistaken. So now we have to move. So the other thing I was thinking of was, uh-oh, it's not letting me do anything. Oh, great. Shit. What's going on? Legal move. All legal moves. We're on a movement event 3, which is our first movement locked. Is that right? Movement event 3 is a select a first movement grid, and we're not having a grid to select. It's saying everything is not a legal move. So what's going on there? Now it knows there's one occupant in there, and it knows it's a black stone, and it knows it's a lay stone. So how come it's not a legal move? I'm kind of confused because this was what, the last available space, but was that a coincidence, or is this, I don't know. I don't know at all. Ideally, we would want to add a move that kind of undoes. I mean, ideally it doesn't break like that. But if we get stuck like that, it was just stuck, you know? So it's like, let me try again. Let me see if it won't let us move if everything is taken. So there's no legal move There's no legal move to be had upon a place. Now, if it's our turn, anything in our control, we should be able to click. And then see, what's weird is it was crashing at movement event 3, right? Which means we had locked in that we were only picking up whatever stones were in our hand. But if we lock that in, these are getting legal move now. So I don't know why it wasn't getting it, because it makes sense for it to not get it here in a movement 2, but as soon as we lock it in, we should render our legal move. So I don't know why that was stuck. I don't know how to debug for that. Okay. I don't know how to debug for it. I'm thinking, we would want a way, we would want a button like how R resets. Oh, come on. What? 998 crashed us. What, man? Wow, okay. If you hit R when your mouse is off the mouse grid, it'll crash. That's not a bug we would necessarily need to fix. So look, we place this, then have our mouse off the grid, then hit R, we crash. Because it's trying to index that nil value. But if we hit R and our mouse is on the grid still, it'll reset. So it might... I don't know what caused our other crash, but that one makes sense, and we don't really need to fix it because that's not a feature that'll be in the delivered game or whatever. That's just to test stuff. So what do we want to do? We fixed one bug. We found one, but we can't replicate it. Let's take a note of it, I guess. We're gonna say bug where no legal moves, even though only lay stones around. Can't recreate, but mouse stone, add 2 members. That's the only thing I really remember about that. Like, there was no other... All we knew was legal moves wasn't getting set, even though we were in a movement event 3. We were in a movement event 3, which should have rendered our legal moves. So that's another thing. We got to think about... Look, watch this. So look, let's say our black is... our black controls here, so we could lock this in and move it in wherever we want. But check this out. We put lay stones everywhere. Watch this. Now it's black's turn. Now look, there's no legal moves around us. Even we lock it into movement event 3, there's no legal moves. Now what? We can't advance because there's no legal moves. So that's essentially recreating the bug. It's not recreating the scenario where it was broken, but this highlights what should be impossible in the game, which is if there's no legal moves around, you can't move. You can't move it. So I don't know if that means we prevent them from even picking it up if we search orthogonally and everything is a non-legal move. Or if it comes to here, I think at any move, we can add a thing in movement event 3 where we say, hey, if there are no legal moves, if everything is a legal move false, and you're in a movement event 3, then we're going to go ahead and make it your turn again, but drop all of your stones where they came from and kind of reset your turn so you could pick another stone to move. And so let's go ahead and type that down so we can add that. And then do we want to, if all grids are occupied, do we want to force change move type to only be move? That's a design decision, which I'm not exactly sure what we would want to do. I think since the game can open up so easily once a full board is there, because you can move all your stuff you can move your whole stack out of a grid, I think it's probably best to just leave it, because it might be confusing if you're getting used to, if it's your turn and you get used to pressing down and then enter to lock in your next move or whatever. So I think I might leave that, but I don't know how to fix it. I mean, I could brute force fix the other bug by doing like a, if a movement 3, check all orthogonal spaces, but then we have to check for the edge cases, the corner cases, the and then as long as the occupant isn't nil. So it's kind of a pain to fix. I'm wondering if there's an easier way to do that. But not exactly sure. What do we do? I mean, let's go ahead and do some of our movement 7 here. So movement 7 is our 4th movement row. We take a look at what our 4th movement row would be. Let's move this stack up here, and we will say that we want to move this down, 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 and this would be our 4th movement row. So this is actually our last possible move, because we can't move any further than all the way across the board with a stack. So wow, we're so close to being done. I mean, without, bugs permitting, we gotta do all that bug testing, but we take a look at our notes, our movement event 7. Now we gotta make a choice here. Do we, since you have to drop all of your remaining stones in the 7th movement event, we're making the decision to not just auto dump all your stones in that move because you have to, but we're allowing the player to drop them all and lock it in to essentially switch over their turn. Now, yeah, I mean, we lock in our highlight, then we know we need to do our if love.keyboard's pressed. Let's pressed down. Then we want to drop a stone. Now, let's take a look up here. We want to drop a stone, takes in 2 arguments. First is the grid we're at, then an option. So let's go ahead and say that our grid is our 4th movement grid. So 4th movement row and column. And then the second argument is the option, which we need an option for. We need option 5. Okay. Now, let us make sure our drop stone function actually has option 5 data, drop stone, and our else if. Actually, we don't need this. We don't need this because, well, it depends. If we want to allow our player to drop stones in the 4th movement and then pick them up again, which they have to drop their stones there, so it's kind of like we should probably just force them to drop it, because you can't lock it in anyway with a stone in your hand still. So I think we should kind of just lock it in. So if we pass nil as the option, it won't do any assignment for the dropped in stone count, which was only needed because when we pick up a stone, we need to know whether or not we can pick up a stone. And we were doing that based on if one was dropped or not, which in this case, we're not trying to pick up a stone, so we should be able to just pass nil there. Let's see if that allows us to drop a stone. So, first movement, second movement, third movement, fourth movement. Dropping it, put it in our first movement. And that's because we literally typed first movement. You know, that happens. Okay. First movement, second movement, third movement, and fourth movement. And, okay. We only want to be able to drop a stone if our mouse stones dot occupants is greater than 1. Greater than 0. If we have 1 or more, we can drop a stone. And then if keyboard was pressed, enter or return, okay. We also need, I could put an and in that statement, but in the past when I've mixed ors and ands, it does a sort of, I don't know, I just can't get it to work. I think it's because the way Lua interprets expressions, because like that's the way to do a ternary operator, is to do a and or in the same statement. So they're kind of working, maybe if we use parentheses, but I don't exactly know. But let's just go ahead and say if enter is pressed, then we're going to check whether or not our mouse stone occupants is equal to 0. And if our mouse stone occupants is equal to 0, then we want to swap player and reset the grid. Let me check if there's anything else we do. Player swap grid reset. We just want to make sure we like nullify next move and everything. So if our player swap reset function, we just want to make sure that our player grid or player swap grid reset function, where's that? Yeah, we just want to make sure this function has our next move getting reassigned, and it does. Same with our off grid and all of our movements. First movement stones, second movement stones. Actually, we changed this. Now, this is actually this variable, so we're gonna have to go through at some point and delete our old variables that we're not using anymore with the new refactor, but it doesn't hurt us that they're there still, as long as we reset them. So let's try it. This is our first being able to drop stones across a whole board. We've never been able to do this and swap turns. So we lock in our stones, select our movement, drop a stone, lock it in, 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 next turn, and it's looking like it works. So that's the first time we've been able to move across the whole board. And it's looking like it's working. Now I want to make sure that we don't crash upon a nil. Okay. 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 Would you look at that? What? Why is this highlighting? It stayed highlight, even though it's not a legal move, and we don't have stack control, so why is that highlighting? This was our, oh, you know what it is? This was the space of our tester. It doesn't say there's an occupant there. It doesn't say it is not occupied, so why is it rendering that? The only thing I could think of is that it's literally, oh no. Okay. I want to say that that was a byproduct of having our tester stone in that square. If we can recreate it without the tester square, because the tester square we have to manually assign these things, like the occupants and the stone control and the stack order, and they just might not be flushed appropriately, or we might be not assigning something that we should be, something that isn't a problem when we place a stone or move a stone into that grid, but something that's we overlooked the tester stone. So okay, so yeah, we're gonna have to do a lot of testing, but we got our last movement done. movementEvent 7 is our last movement, so in a way we've got most of the functionality of our game. Oopsie. That was, there's two things you can do in this game. You can place a stone in an empty grid, and you can move a stack in your control. And the furthest you can move a stack in your control is all the way across the grid. Let me see if we can move all the way from left to right. So let me just kind of just do this. Okay, come on. Our direction lock is getting... See, because we should be able to... We're in a movementEvent 3, which is our first movement selection, yet there's no legal moves. I think that has something to do with our direction lock, because if we move, let's say if we move a stone one direction, can we move that same stack a different direction? Yes, we can. Okay, so I don't know what was going on. I don't know why that wasn't working. Another thing to test. We can move left to right and up to down with a whole stack in our hand, so that's nice. There's just a couple of little bugs that are hard to track down. Now that we've got our features basically done, I think now's the time, or next episode's the time to go really into extensive testing. So we'll probably rehaul all of our debugging options so that we can see, our default debug will probably be board stuff like this, what grid we're in, whether or not it's a legal move, a stack control, occupants. That'll be mostly the same, but then we'll do a second page where it's saying all of our we'll have basically all of our variables up here. We can go through, delete old variables that aren't being used anymore, and then we can print out every variable up here. And then whenever we have a bug, kind of go over and hover and try to find what is different that shouldn't be happening so that we can track it down and fix it. Because right now, we should have had a legal move, but for whatever reason, we were in a movement 3 and there was no legal moves even if you hover over an empty space. So there's something going wrong. I have a feeling it's something to do with our direction. I feel like our direction might not be getting flushed upon a player swap, but now I think about it, we are swapping it because we swap every direction here upon a player swap. So, and on a player reset, let's see, player reset, and it's, yeah, we do it here. This is the reset function, so we'll just have to do extensive testing with some more debugging values and see if we can replicate any of these bugs so that we can track them down and kill them in the nicest way possible. But that being said, we got our last feature of the game really other than winning, we got our move feature set built out. We can place a stone in an empty spot and we can move a stack in our control. Only took me 2.5 months, but it's getting there. And then we're, once we figure out these debug, once we're fairly happy we can't recreate any of these bugs, if we can track them down and fix them, we might be pulling our hair out for a while, but I think we can find them. I think we can track them down. Hopefully we can fix them, and then we get to work on a win state, and then we can polish up some stuff, turn our music back on, get rid of our debug, and then invite someone over to play it. Yeah, it's going to be hard to debug the win state too, but that's whatever. Okay, I'm going to get everything to the staging area with a commit message saying finished movement event 7. Still buggy sometimes, but I'm going to say other features buggy sometimes, to kind of indicate that it's not quite ready, but we're going to be working on that tomorrow, and hopefully we can figure some more stuff out. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.